everyone, and welcome back to episode 35 of PopCultX, your go-to for pop culture from a Gen X point of view. My name is Daniel.
And I'm Gabriel.
Welcome, Gabriel, back from our little break, holiday break, I guess, our first holiday break. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving out there, everyone. And tonight also is the second night of Hanukkah, so I have my candles in the background there going, and so if anyone out there celebrates Hanukkah as well, have a happy Hanukkah, as Adam Sandler would say. And yeah, we're glad to be back. Glad to be here with you. And yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite Hanukkah tweets or shout outs was from, of course, Adam Sandler. I'm pulling up my Twitter real quick because it was, I thought it was hilarious because he wrote a Hanukkah greeting as the Zohan, which was like one of my favorite.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he said, "Happy Hanukkah and disco to all. Love the Zohan." So I thought that was funny. I retweeted it. I think that's one of like his best characters, to be honest.
It's a crazy character. Yeah, it's like this secret agent, super agent who always wanted to be a hairdresser and he had to come to America. Yeah, that was interesting movie.
One of my
you
favorite
don't mess with
bits,
the Zohan.
Yeah, in there is that like the I think Palestinians are like, Palestinians probably, and the Israelis are like fighting, and then someone's like, "Why are you guys fighting? You basically look the same." And they're like, "Yeah, you look Mexican." And I just thought it was like a funny way to say like how ridiculous it is that, we fight over, the things that are like, when it comes down to it, we're basically the same. Yeah, sometimes you can't even tell us apart. And so it's like, it's just silly to be killing people. And it's like, if you were to, grab two people by their head and do that whole like switcheroo, like, okay, which is which? Sometimes you'd be like, I don't know. Is that the Israeli guy or is that like, so then it's just silly. Like it's dumb. So anyway, that's one of my favorite. It's just like a funny way to kind of point that out. But speaking of current hot topics, I saw the House of Gucci with Lady Gaga this weekend, and it did not let me down. I was pretty happily pleased with it. Like I think I mentioned on our last podcast, I was expecting it to be sort of over the top and melodramatic, and it hit all those notes.
So it didn't let you down. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it didn't let me down. For those not aware of what the film is, it's about the Gucci family that had, the fashion line, the design line, Gucci, and the movie is about the family and the wife who marries into the family and then basically hires someone to kill her husband. And this the story behind what took place. And it's based on a true story. Lady Gaga plays, Mrs. Gucci. And we have other great actors like Adam Driver plays Maurizio Gucci. Salma Hayek plays a psychic named Pina. Jared Leto plays Paolo Gucci. Al Pacino's in it. Jeremy Irons. So great actors. Lady Gaga did an amazing job with the character that she plays, and the other actors did really great. There were moments where, like I said, I expected it to sort of be like soap opera-ish, like over the top, and Jared Leto is kind of the character or the actor that brings the comedy in. To kind of give you an idea, like the thing that I think is funny about him is he plays a character that supposedly is kind of like the dumbass of the family, like the one that's not accomplished. But the whole time he's talking in a really high pitch, like almost stereotypical Italian accent. Like, I don't know. Why is everyone always picking on me? Like, and it's always that, it's always that. And so you laugh and then you're like, wait, am I supposed to be laughing or is he just like a bad actor? Like, did they purposely?
There was some controversy about the accents in the movie.
Yeah,
and I think the acting or vocal coach who helped coach the actors for their different accents made them very distinct on purpose, is what I read. She tweeted out about it, and so she was not, I guess, defending her decisions, but also her choices, but just making it be, I guess, that over the top, which it was supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every romance language is sort of over the top. If you ever overhear a conversation between Italians, people that speak Spanish, it's gonna be over.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's over the top. They can't help it.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
it's not a subtle language. Like it's very melodic. It's very, um, you know, it's over the top. It's dramatic. But one of the things that like made me kind of laugh that I don't know if other people are talking about is that Jeremy Irons doesn't have an Italian accent in the film at all. He has his English
Oh,
accent, and he
okay.
plays, one of the two brothers that's in charge of the House of Gucci. And it's like, okay, the brother has an Italian accent, Al Pacino. The sons have Italian accents. The wife
But
has Italian.
not him.
Why does he not have an Italian accent? And he plays like this old actor, and it always makes me laugh when they get English actors to portray like other ethnic groups, and they keep their
Okay.
English accent, and it's like, why? It's just so weird. Like, you're a good actor. I know you could probably do it. So you're making a choice, but it's just like, for me, it's kind of a weird, interesting choice. But Lady Gaga slayed. I think she probably is going to be a shoo-in for a Golden Globe nomination. She'll probably win a Golden Globe. And then she'll probably get nominated for an Oscar. Who knows if she'll win the Oscar, but I think she can do it. She did really, really good. She really inhabited the character. Really interesting, storyline that she goes from they show her as like a young woman to a wife to someone that's kind of defending, what she thinks is rightfully hers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great movie. It's really interesting. It's very dialogue heavy and a lot of acting. I think that actors will probably enjoy it because there's a lot of dialogue that shows off the acting skills of these actors.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
I think each one has their own moment where like Al Pacino gets to kind of riff and show off. Lady Gaga is definitely showing off her skills. Jared Leto, everyone has like their little moment where they're showing like, this is why I'm here. I'm like a great actor.
Yeah.
Al Pacino, of course, being like one of the greatest actors of our time. So he really brought it. And it's just like a beautifully shot film. It is got a cool soundtrack from like 70s, 80s, and like early 90s. And it's really interesting. So everyone check it out if you haven't seen it. I think that it's projected to be like, have some good, people, I guess, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like a good performance in the weekend box office between that
Oh, okay.
and the new Disney film. I think that they were both like kind of head and head. So people went out and saw it in the theaters. When I went, it was a good night, a good sized crowd, and I went on like a noon on a Sunday. So
Oh, wow.
it does look like it's pretty popular. So I'm glad it's good.
Yeah, I heard Lady Gaga went really method acting for
Mhm.
this. Like she really engrossed herself in that role and was living as Patricia for like a majority of the time while she was doing filming, which is a one way to approach it. Yeah, and I heard she had some like to break out of that character. She had to get out of that routine, and it was a little difficult at times.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, I think you'll enjoy watching it because you can see Lady Gaga's, her arc. I guess like her performance is really not subtle. It's very over the top, but it's a good performance. The guy that plays her husband, Adam Driver, he's more of like a subtle actor. Like his
Mm-hmm.
accent wasn't over the top. It was a little bit more subdued. His character is a little bit more soft spoken. So it like is more realistic, I guess, if you want to call it that. Like I said, Jared
That's fine.
Leto is like the comedy of the film. Salma Hayek is not what you would expect. Like, she's not glamorous in the movie. She plays a woman that I looked up the real life woman, and she's not a good looking woman. So they kind of, she's not what you expect from a Salma Hayek kind of appearance. She's not, all done up and dolled
Right.
up, but
Right.
she did a really good job too. And it's kind of interesting because it's like a little known fact that Salma Hayek is actually married to a man who owns Gucci now. So
Oh,
her
okay.
husband owns, I think it's Gucci. He owns Yves Saint Laurent. He owns Puma. There's like a ton of companies that he owns, and I think he's like the third richest man in the world. So
Wow.
kudos to Salma Hayek.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
And I just want to touch on something you said about Jeremy Irons and him keeping his British accent.
Yeah.
Started watching The Great on Hulu, which, revolves around Catherine the Great in Russia and the Tsar and Peter the Great. And Peter the Great is played by Nicholas Hoult, I think, a British actor. And he kept his accent as a Russian prince or emperor or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just thought the show is really good. I don't know I'm not sure if you've seen it or not, but it's it's a historical fiction that's really plays heavily on the fiction.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting. I mean, think about History of the World Part 1 by Mel Brooks, where it's good to be the king. Mm-hmm. So it's really good to be the emperor for him.
Oh, yeah, of course. Do the other characters speak with a Russian accent?
No, not even the archbishop. None of them. They all speak mostly with British accents, except for like some of the soldiers, from what I could tell.
See, if you're going to do that, I think 100% everyone should be English, but don't mix it up, because then to me it just doesn't make sense that there's
I agree. It's
weird, a mixture of accents.
Why is he speaking British? I know the Catherine the Great, I guess, is from Austria. So, but she also had a British accent played by what's her name? I'll have to think of the actress name. She's like the main star, and I can't even think of the actress name. That's terrible.
Is it
Ellie Fanning?
Yeah, I was going to say Dakota Fanning's little sister. Yeah,
exactly. And it's an interesting show. I mean, I like it. It's comedy. It made me laugh. I guess just how outlandish it is.
Yeah,
why not? It's fun.
Nice. So there was a preview of a movie that is also probably in the vein of like serious acting that. I don't know if people are going to catch on to this, but and if it would be an issue for anyone else. But so it's Cyrano. So the Cyrano de Bergerac, and so it's a new take on that. It is with what's his name? Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones. Right. Excellent actor, true. Like really cool. So he plays Cyrano, and the thing that I sort of thought was odd, not obviously the stature of like him being a little person versus Roxanne being, a taller person, because that I think they kind of play on that in the film. But the fact that he's 52 and the actress that plays Roxanne is 33, but she has a baby face. Like I'm surprised because I just looked it up. I thought she was going to be much younger because she looks like she's 19. Like if you look up her pictures, she looks very young. And so it kind of tripped me out that I'm like, he's in love with this. I mean, for back then, like I'm sure people got married when they were super young, but how many times was like a 52-year-old? Like, I don't know. It's weird. Lately, like that's been like a topic of conversation is like that, like December, May relationships. And it's been tripping me out because I've seen a lot of that in life. And of course in Hollywood, because the tendency is to get male actors who are like much older and their love interests are typically really young Hollywood actresses. And I'm like, didn't we get rid of that? Like with the Me Too movement, like, wasn't that addressed that there should be some kind of, leveling of the age? Like it's kind of creepy to have like a 50-year-old actor playing someone who's in love with like someone much younger. Mm-hmm. I think it's weird. Like, and why not employ someone why couldn't he have been in love with someone who's like a 48-year-old, a 50-year-old actress? Like,
well, is it the story, the original story? I mean, I don't know what the ages were in that story, but I've always there's been always a huge age gap between the two, right?
I don't know. So I am not like, I haven't read Cyrano de Bergerac. So I don't know if Roxanne is supposed to be a young maiden and Cyrano is like an old creeper, like if that's part of the whole story.
I think it is.
So Steve Martin played a rendition of him in Roxanne, and Daryl Hannah was the young girl. So I'm sure there was an age difference, then. I don't know. Like, I feel kind of weird reading those kind of stories. Like the famous like story is like Lolita, right? Like the book and then the film. True. And then they flipped it and they did Call Me By Your Name, which was like the male version of that with a younger man or a younger boy. And that was kind of weird too. And so I don't know. Maybe it's just me that I think it's kind of weird to see that age gap, like that big of an age
Yeah.
gap. Um,
Yeah.
33. She honestly, she looked much younger. I thought she was like 21 in the movie. She looks very young. She does not look 33. So I guess at least that's something, that she's only 20 years difference, not 30. So I guess kudos for them for not hiring
They're
a 20-year-old.
trying.
I know. They're like, give us a break, Gabe. We hired a 30-year-old. But anyway, outside of the age gap, I like seeing him in a lead role because I think he's a great actor. So I think that's cool that he's got like a leading role. So I'm excited to see that. And he, like I said, he's a great actor. So we'll see what he brings to the table.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of greats, I watched the Disney Plus documentary by Peter Jackson about the Beatles' Get Back sessions about the making of the album Let It Be.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a Beatles fan, but this was just so mind-blowing for me. I'll never listen to that album the same again, because the documentary is basically, they gave Peter Jackson access to 60 hours of video footage and over 140 hours of audio footage for him to create this 8-hour epic documentary. And it's like you're on a fly on the wall and you're watching it all unfold from their initial, where they started out at a movie studio, to Apple Studios, to the accumulation on the rooftop performance for Let It Be. And it's just fantastic. I mean, I always enjoy being around musicians when they're playing and creating stuff, but getting to witness like the birth of Get Back, the song Get Back, because as you see Paul McCartney just humming nonsense as he's playing and trying to figure out the chords, and just see it come to life. Yeah. Same as for like Let It Be when he's on the piano, and just witness that. And it's just like amazing. And it's just like, wow, I could watch that all day. I could watch all 60 hours. I hear there's like a Peter Jackson cut of an 18-hour version of it.
Oh, wow.
That was like his initial, okay, I got rid of all the other stuff, and here's my 18-hour that now we have to whittle down, which before the pandemic, they wanted to do just a 2-hour documentary of it. Yeah. A film for the theaters. So when when pandemic hit, COVID hit, and that, all the theaters closed, they said, Peter Jackson, they said, go back, take a little more time. We're going to put it on Disney Plus now. So now you can expand it. And so they said, okay, have 6 hours. So it's going to be 2 3-hour films, but it went over. So there's 3 parts, about 8 hours, and it's just not enough. It's just fantastic getting to watch. Because, if you're a Beatles fan, that's when they really started to feel the angst of the separation as they were all pulling apart. Yeah. And starting to go their separate ways. So you see George Harrison leave once during the filming, and it's just that like pressure on them to come up with a new album in 2 weeks time that they originally set out to do, and with all new material. And you see that pressure on them. And it's just, even if you're not a fan of the Beatles, go watch it just to see the top talent create something under such pressure. Yeah. It's just fantastic. It really is.
Yeah, I don't know how someone can't be a fan of the Beatles, because their music is so prolific. And I've always been a fan of the Beatles. I know that there's a whole like, I'm like more of a Beach Boys than I am the Beatles. Like,
or more Rolling Stones and Beatles.
Yeah, like thing, you can like them both. I don't get that, like why humans have to pit groups against each other. It's such a weird need that we have. Yeah. That it's like we have to be part of a gang or like a group of monkeys that are like stronger than the other monkeys. And it's like, I like both. I love listening to Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, and I also love listening to the Beatles. Like, you don't have to hate someone. You can like both. Like, you can recognize the talent. And I get like, if you just don't happen to like them, that's fine. But it's like always like it's one or the other. I don't know. It's really weird. But I do want to watch it, because I was listening to that album last night, nice. And I haven't sat down and watched the documentary, but the music is just great. Across the Universe is like one of my favorite songs by the Beatles. Yeah. And it makes me feel good.
Because in the documentary they do different versions of like Across the Universe. They did like a country version, so they sped it up, and they're just
Mhm.
when they're just riffing and playing and like warming up, I guess, before they start recording. And it's just to see them play different songs and just imagine the amount of knowledge they have in their brains for the different music. And I will end with this though, for that. I have a much greater appreciation for Ringo Starr
Mhm.
now than before I watched the documentary. He is a professional. He just wanted to play the music. He wasn't worried about the drama. He wanted to get in there and make music. And I appreciate that about him. He wasn't letting all the distractions get in his way.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I like all of them. I think George Harrison is a great artist, or was a great
Mm-hmm.
artist. Um, there's certain aspects of Lennon that, as an adult, like as I start to learn more about him, that I disliked. I always kind of had him in that like whole imagine hippie, like idealistic version of him that a lot of people have of him. And then the
Mm-hmm.
realities of like, your heroes can have flaws. And so like, I typically don't put people on that high of a pedestal where I think, oh, like they're so perfect and they're so great and they're like saints. But he did have like a lot of things that I find, I
Yeah.
don't know, that I
Mm-hmm.
don't like about him. Let's just leave it at that. But
I think I know where you're going with that in a degree. I mean, him and his relationship with Yoko Ono, and then she got a bad rap for breaking up the Beatles. She didn't really do that. That was John's choice, I think. But how he
yeah,
left behind his other son and family, I think
that's
that
exactly
was
it.
kind of the big flaw, and I think that's where
Yeah.
you're going with that.
And I mean, it's so misogynistic to then blame it on Yoko Ono and say
Hmm.
she did X, Y, and Z. And it's like, so is he not a man? Is he not grown?
Right.
Like, can he
He's
not
had to
make
be
his own choices?
exactly.
Um, and that's exactly what it is that when people hold him up to this like idealistic, saint that, oh, just like love and peace and all this. And it's like, he didn't extend that to his son.
Hmm.
And his son, really, he pretty much abandoned him. And,
Hmm.
Paul McCartney famously wrote a song, Hey Jude, about that situation. And I don't know, it's just kind of weird that
Yeah.
that happened. And then Sean Lennon is like, sort of like, the little god, like that
Hmm.
they had, and it just
Yeah.
treated, and it like had very separate, different lives. And it's kind of sad to
Hmm.
see that Julian Lennon didn't have the same life that Sean Lennon did. And I don't blame that on Yoko, and I blame, I put that all on Lennon himself. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Although I
yeah.
will say this, I'm sorry, but I can't stand when Yoko Ono gets to a mic and just starts screaming. I had to mute it. I think some of the times that they showed her doing that, it was just frazzled my brain.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a fan of her music, in quotations. Um, I can respect like avant-garde, performance art and all of that,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
her particular style is not something that I personally find pleasing to my,
Yeah, I hear you.
my preferences. So, but whatever, to each their own. I mean, she's done her own thing, right? So,
Right.
that kind of, talking about pitting people against each other, Beatles versus Beach Boys, Rolling Stone, or whatever, reminds me of this other topic that came up within the last 2 weeks, and that's between the newly freed Britney Spears. She went on to Instagram and had a post saying, I appreciate all the people that have been there for me, that have made comments in support.
Hmm.
Unlike other people who know me and know what I went through and find it so difficult to express their support, and attached that to a video of Christina Aguilera at the Latin Grammy Awards, I believe, where she was like either moving by the paparazzi or the reporters. They asked her, "What do you think about Britney Spears?" Her PR person sort of like says, "No, we're not going to talk about that." And Christina says something to the effect of like, "Sorry, but I'm really happy for her." I know this is like not the popular opinion, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think it's really kind of sad that Britney felt that she needed to point that out. I think it's weird that she's focusing on Christina Aguilera and not the people who really did the things to her. I know she's
Hmm.
made a lot of comments about her mom, her dad, her sister, blah blah blah. Um, Christina Aguilera was one of the first people that I think that actually made a public statement in support of
Yeah.
of Britney Spears.
Mm-hmm.
People are saying, well, Britney never saw it. Okay, so if she didn't see it, she did see it after everyone tagged, because of course everyone tagged the conversation on Twitter to Britney, and so of course she has seen it now. She hasn't apologized. She hasn't said like, "Oh, my bad." Like, and the thing that kind of surprises me about it is that it's not like they're best friends or their family.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They're ex-coworkers from like 30 years ago.
Ex-coworkers. Yeah, that's true.
When you think about it, that's what it is. They were both on the Mickey Mouse Club. And then they were both in like the TRL pop scene. They, kind of famously
they were more
pitted against each other.
Than coworkers.
Yeah, they were pitted against each other. They like, they weren't necessarily really like all that close. They ran, I guess, in the same circle when it came to like Justin Timberlake. Britney dated him. Christina toured with him. Now they're grown women, and that's the thing that I find fascinating about this is that I'm curious if seeing Britney, if she's sort of suspended at the age or that time period that the conservatorship began, because it seems like a very young person thing to do to call someone out like that. It doesn't seem like grown folk type of stuff. Christina is, a mom of, I think, 2. She's had, you don't have to list her accomplishments to try to even out like, oh, well, Christina does this, Britney did that. Like, it's stupid to pit them against each other. It's like sexist, misogynistic. It's, you can like both. You don't have to hate one or the other, or you can not like either, or you could like one and not the other. But that doesn't mean that you have to go and attack the other person. And that's the thing that like really annoyed me about the whole like Twitter thing is that like it went off, everyone was like, oh, Britney versus Christina again. Yay. The 90s or the 2000s are back. And like, it's so weird to take pleasure in something like that.
That is weird. Yeah.
And like, it's like, I don't know. Like, I think Christina may have made a comment saying like she wants a conversation out of the media, which I think is an appropriate response. But it's weird. I think that it makes me nervous to see what's going to come for Britney if that's like one of the first things that she's doing is attacking a coworker or like a peer that. Is it really her responsibility to like defend her, to come rescue her, or whatever it is that Britney was thinking? I'm sure Christina Aguilera didn't know what was going on. I mean, why would she?
Right.
I don't know what goes on in the personal life of my coworkers. And so it's just weird. Like I said, it doesn't make me super confident that Britney Spears is just going to like move on with her life and be well-adjusted and happy. Like, I hope for that. I hope she's happy, but that's kind of like, yikes. That's like one of the first steps.
I think as any sort of trauma that occurs, right, we can get stunted in our maturation. So, and what she went through is, I would consider it a traumatic event.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so like you said, it could have stunted her 13 years ago. I'm not sure how old she is now, but she could still be in that same mind frame as she was when all this started and began with her.
Yeah.
And that's her way of thinking then. And she hasn't had a chance to evolve or become an adult on her own. So it might take some time. So maybe, I don't know, I would give a little bit of a leeway there personally, because I think back to like, foster kids and stuff, and every time they have to move a house or move from their foster parents, they fall back in like their maturity for like a year or 2. So each move, and it just accumulates. So I think of her trauma, it must be something similar. There has to be some that we have to take that into account, I guess.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not blaming Britney or saying like, or trying to police her actions or her thoughts or what she wants to comment on. But I think it's unfortunate because then we fall back into that same trap of the media pitting 2 women artists against each other.
You're right.
And then the fandom goes
Mm-hmm.
after one or the
Mm-hmm.
other. And it's like, one, does Christina need that negativity? And then obviously Britney doesn't need that negativity where people are coming for her. So
Right.
like the fact that the media like picked it up and ran with it so strong,
Yeah.
and like I saw like Entertainment Tonight in Canada, like someone saying, oh no, Christina like definitely shaded her, and she was, and it was like, you're a grown ass fucking woman talking about someone you don't know, and what you're, you know, what you're implying she thought by saying I'm happy for Britney. Like it just, it really grossed me out. I was like, it's so,
Yeah. I
and
agree.
the reporter on Entertainment Tonight that was interviewing this, I don't even know who this woman was, but who was interviewing her, she looked so happy like to be able to report that like, oh, there's a new beef with Britney and Christina. And it's like, you're fucking adults. Like we're not in high school. They're grown women, and you're happy that you're pitting them against each other. Like it's
Yeah.
so
That's
gross. It's really
yeah.
gross. Like it's so stupid.
I
And
mean,
let them live their own lives. And like, even if Britney made the statement, like you don't have to pick it up and make it like a big news story. It's like, it's such clickbait, and people fall for it because then all the little people on Twitter were like ranting about it and like
mm-hmm.
calling names and doing all this stuff. And it's just like, they're pop singers. Like, do you think that that was going on with like, I don't like, what was our parents' generation of like, you know, I don't know, Billie Holiday versus like Nina Simone? Like, you could like both of them. Just go to their concerts and enjoy their music.
Just support the one you like, and yeah, don't worry about what the
Yeah,
other one's
like
doing. Yeah, and I
exactly.
agree. The media and paparazzi are just. It's just, if I could get rid of anything in this world, paparazzi's got to go. I mean, they are just the worst in my eyes. They're very predatorial and very, uh, yeah, hate them.
Well, and I'm curious, like from a psychological point of view, and like I would love to see like an actual doctor say, like for someone that, and I'm not talking about these people, but like just someone in general, let's say someone who was drawn to acting or comedy or performance because they have, let's say, low self-esteem, they need the validation
Okay.
for, you know, whatever it is, the trauma that they've had in their life. Um, and then they get into this role where they want the adulation, they want that feeling of love and acceptance from their audience, and then they get on something like Instagram where it's like immediate, like they can post a
Instant
picture of
feedback.
them like dancing a jig, and then it gets 5 million likes or whatever. And like, how addictive would that be for someone that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have a healthy sense of who they are?
That's
and
true.
and like that could really, I imagine, get out of hand and spin out of control for someone oversharing their life, oversharing, you know, dramatic moments in their life. I mean, I imagine, like, let's think of like someone like I don't know, like Robin Williams. Like if he had had social media like in his prime, in his youth, like how would he have used social media, and like would that have been like a negative for him? And would that have hurt his situation and his mental health,
Hmm.
having, you know, always being on, always performing? And now it's not even performing on stage, but it's like your private life is a performance because you're always filming it and you're always putting stuff on social media so that people will like it and talk about it. And it's like, enjoy your Christmas. Like, don't post the tree and then like dance in front of the tree and then put on like, just enjoy your Christmas and like be famous and rich and enjoy that. And then maybe show, like, share out one picture, share
Yeah.
one little video. But like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's getting kind of out of hand. It's just crazy. The oversharing of famous people's lives, and it's like they're addicted to it, and it doesn't make it doesn't paint them in a good life. You start to see like the ugly side of their life.
Mm-hmm. But I think the same goes. The fandom is also addicted to it.
Yeah, the
So the
fandoms
consumers
are
aren't backing off.
crazy.
They want more, and hey, they'll take as much as you give them. So if you're going to keep feeding them, it's like a stray cat, right? You feed it once, they're going to keep coming back.
Yeah, I don't even know what like the age of a typical, like, let's say a Beyonce stan is, or like a Nicki Minaj. Like I think it goes beyond just teenagers, which is kind of scary that there's like grown
That's
adults
true.
that like try to destroy people that don't like Nicki Minaj or don't like Beyonce and like go and like destroy their social presence. And it's like, it's so weird. Like I would like
Yeah.
to see a documentary on that and like have them find those people that spend so much time online, oh, this rapper said something negative about Nicki Minaj. I'm going to like berate them online and I'm going to
hmm
like, who, I don't know. I'm curious, like who does that? What age are they? Like, what do they do with their life? And why do
Is it
they,
is it
yeah,
just like one person who has like a bot farm, a
well, I'm
bot
curious,
army
like,
that
yeah,
does
is
that?
that
Yeah.
like,
I
is
don't
it
know.
really like, a group of people that are behaving that crazy and it's like a cult, like anyone that threatens that and they all have them, like Taylor
Yeah,
Swift
they
has
do.
her fans, Selena
hmm
Gomez has her fans, and they're like, oh, don't mess with so and so's fans because they're the worst. But like they say that about everyone's fans because they're all like very intense in their love for that person. And
hmm
then but like the flip side of that is like then they hate anyone that has anything to say about them. And it's like just like them, like follow them. Like I remember like Deadheads or like the
hmm
people that liked
hmm
Fish, like they would just
Exactly. Tour them,
follow,
travel. Yeah.
yeah, like follow the Grateful Dead and like do mushrooms and smoke weed and follow them around and be happy. But like you didn't see them like
Exactly.
going after like Jimmy Buffett fans. You know what I'm saying? Like there weren't like,
Margaritaville.
yeah, there weren't like wars between like parrot heads and deadheads and like fish people. Like it was just like
Right.
you just really enjoyed the group that you liked.
Yeah, I
Like
get you. Yeah.
what a insane idea. Like you like something, spend time doing what you like and not
Mm.
focusing on the negative aspect. I know it's hard because I'm a negative person, but it's like it's like very tiring to see that. Like I'm a fan of Christina Aguilera. So just going through the Twitter feed and like seeing people say like go back to Mexico, which is like super racist and not even accurate because she's not Mexican.
Ay vey.
So it's like weird, like you're not even educated enough to know like
hmm
what type of racism to use. And it's like you're saying that because you think she slighted Britney Spears by saying, "Oh, I'm happy for her," and Britney wasn't happy with that, and you don't know either of them. That's
Yeah,
weird. Like that's
it is.
crazy to me that you would put racist shit online or hateful stuff online for people to see, and you're not even you don't even know them. You wouldn't even be ever in the realm of of
hmm
them, and so it just kind of it's crazy. It just I try to tune it out and focus on like just supporting Christina because she has a new album or new music coming out that is in Spanish, which I like. I'm focusing on that and supporting her new music. Hopefully, she has a lot of success with that.
Yeah,
So that's my
definitely.
deal. Yeah.
There you support who you like. It's that
Yep.
easy, right? Support
Yeah.
who you like, and if you don't like them, just don't watch them or don't follow them or don't listen to them. You don't have to be, like you said, embracing the negative.
And like
Um,
following them, like people follow their accounts for people they hate.
yeah, it's
That's
weird.
crazy.
It
It's
is.
like follow people you like.
Yeah.
Like block the people, like mute them from your conversation so you never have to hear anything about them. Like anyway.
I mean, I try to do that. I follow like a lot of on Twitter, a lot of artists that I really like, and one
Mhm,
in particular is like Lin Manuel Miranda, and he just
mhm.
released on Netflix his directorial debut of Tick
Oh,
Tick
nice.
Boom, and I talked about it I think last time, but I watched it and I haven't been able to stop watching it and stop listening to the soundtrack of it because it is phenomenal. It is about the life of Jonathan Larson, the creator of Rent.
Mhm,
Basically, it was Tick Tick Boom was a almost like a one man play that Jonathan Larson wrote,
mhm.
and it turned into a part act or musical. Eventually, that went to stage and then adapted for film by Lin Manuel Miranda. And it follows his life as he's trying to create and stage a reading of his first musical, Suburbia, that he wrote. And it tells the story of that and how he went through getting the actors, getting more musicians, and how he had to write this final number for that musical Suburbia and how he finally came to him. And it tells basically from Jonathan Larson's perspective in his life and how his friends were dying from, it was during the AIDS epidemic, and how he wasn't doing enough, how people weren't doing enough. And Andrew Garfield was phenomenal. He was fantastic in the movie. Also, I was really surprised by Vanessa Hudgens. I knew her name, but I didn't really know much of her. And she was phenomenal in it as well. And also the rest of the cast, Alexandra Shipp, Robin De Jesus, Joshua Henry. And it was just, man, I just thinking about it now, I want to go back and watch it again. It was just that good. It was really good. And one of the numbers, and it also harkens to Jonathan Larson himself, who was very much inspired and mentored by Stephen Sondheim, who we know just passed away a couple of days ago. So it was really a tribute. It ended up being sort of a tribute to Stephen Sondheim as well, because Lin Manuel got some feedback from Stephen Sondheim about the film, and he was able to incorporate that into the film before he passed away. So nice. It was really good. I really liked it. I mean, I didn't know too much about Jonathan Larson other than Rent before this, but now it's just, wow. It's just, if he doesn't get his EGOT, Lin Manuel, for this will be his Oscar. I think that's what is he missing the Oscar? I think he's missing the Oscar. He missed out on it last year. But if he doesn't get it for at least nominated for director for this one, then it's a shame, because it really is that good.
I think it's hard for a first-time director to win, because I feel like the Oscars or the Academy typically play catch-up. They'll have someone win like 2 projects or 3 projects after they deserve it, or something.
Interesting. Okay.
Like Scorsese, like winning way after,
or DiCaprio.
So, yeah, like Leonardo DiCaprio. And so I'll be surprised. Like, I think it'd be awesome, but I won't hold my breath, because the Academy is not cutting edge. They're very much like establishment. And
well, I mean, he's been nominated for song before, so it's not like his first rodeo there, so maybe that will play in his favor. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Because it is really that good. It really is.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I am a fan of Vanessa Hudgens. I think that she sort of flies under the radar when it comes to getting acknowledgement for being like a really well-rounded, talented person, being able to like sing, dance, act. I think I really started to respect her a lot when I saw her in the live version of Grease. I don't know if you ever saw that, but
I didn't see that, but
she did a great job. But one of the things that like I really respected her for, and like really my heart went out to her, is that she lost her dad right before the airing, and they performed it live. So I'm like, I can't even imagine the pain she was going through, and that she was able to like go on with the show. Shows what a professional she was. And I think she dedicated her performance. And I think that, there's an aspect of that, when you're close with someone that you're like, they would want me to go and like kick ass and like still do this. But the amount of strength that it would take for someone to be able to do that is like immeasurable. And so like, once I saw that, I was like, she's dope. Like she did such a good job. She played Rizzo. Which is like a hard, because you have to be charismatic. I mean, that's Starker Channing made that role famous, and she is just like amazing. And so she held her own with it, and to be able to perform it live on television, she did a really great job. So I'm definitely a fan of hers.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a number in there called Therapy with Jonathan Larson and Andrew Garfield and Vanessa Hudgens, where they do like a back and forth, and it reminded me of like a Johnny Cash and a June Carter Cash number, in their duet. So that was like one of my favorite performances, was that one.
Yeah, and he's not my favorite Spider-Man, but he's one of my favorite Spider-Men. And so I'm excited to see. I mean, I don't know if it's a secret or what, but I'm pretty sure he's in the new Spider-Man movie, right? That's pretty confirmed. And so I'm really excited to see him in that, and Tobey Maguire, and the current Spider-Man. I always forget his name.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland is like my favorite. I think he's just like perfect for the role. I think it's just because he's so youthful, and he's a good actor, but I just think he encapsulates who Peter Parker is more than the other actors. But speaking of comic movies, or movies that are based on comic books, that's actually our topic for this week. Is we're talking about not necessarily the MCU or the DC comic book movies, but some other films that maybe you would be surprised, our listeners, that to find out that they were based on comic books. I was surprised to see a lot of the people or a lot of the films on our list that are based on a comic book. I had no idea. Some are a bit obvious and maybe are well known for being based on graphic novels, but some of them are really out of left field. Like I had no idea.
Yeah, and I think so. When we first broached this topic, we talked about movies, superhero movies that were, I guess, do we want to go based on comic books outside DC Marvel, like you said?
Yeah.
But is it just superhero movies that are away from DC? So maybe they're not even based on comic books.
I guess we could do both. I mean, just like superhero genre that's not DC. Because I mean, Marvel and DC is what gets all the focus, right?
Yeah,
like especially MCU.
Deservedly so for the most part.
Yeah. So, I mean, to get started, I think that one of the films that kind of came to my mind is a film that is really a part of my childhood, and that's Flash Gordon. That is based off of the old time comic book strips, like really old. And I think as a kid, I didn't really know anything about the comic strips or like the comic aspect of it. I just thought it was a really cool, badass movie. The actors that were in it were like really cool. Like I thought Flash Gordon was like totally it. Like I thought he was really a cool, badass. The soundtrack, Queen doing the theme song for Flash Gordon was like
nice.
Like I said, I didn't even know like the world of where it came from. I just knew like it was awesome. Like the music was awesome, the acting, the visuals, like the like old badass like guy that has wings, the general as they like fly. You haven't seen the movie, right? So I'm like describing it. So there's a scene where like it's like in the space or whatever, and there's like this winged warriors, and one of them is like the old dude, and he's got like the long beard, and he's kind of like not chubby but like an old guy, like he's thick, and so like kind of like an old badass, and they're like flying into the planet to attack, and the special effects aren't the greatest. It's from 1980, but it's such a good movie. So that's on my list for sure. For one of the films that came out that isn't necessarily, going to make lists because it's not MCU. It's not the, end game, but it deserves to be recognized for something really great.
I think for me, one of the most prolific, at least comic book. I didn't even know it was a comic book to begin with. One of the most prolific, we'll call it a universe, I guess, movie universe, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Now I remember them first from like a cartoon. I don't even know if the cartoon came before the first film, but that was like everything to me when I was younger. I think if the first film came out maybe in the late 80s, but I was into martial arts, Taekwondo. So seeing these teenagers, and they were turtles, and they were doing kung fu and karate, and it was just so cool. And then, you had to figure out which one you related to the most. Were you like the leader in Leonardo? Were you like the smart guy in Donatello, or the party animal Michelangelo, or even like the badass rebel in Raphael? Now, myself, I always fancied myself as Donatello. So I thought I picked up the staff and learned how to use that more. So it really spoke to a whole generation, and it's still going on. I mean, they've made 2 more movies with more CGI based, but it's the original movies. The original 2 movies were just, so fantastic. And to learn that they were from comic books just actually recently is really cool, because it like, plays into what we're trying to incorporate here at PopCultX, is that, everything is like crossovers in a way, and, comic books, movies, and they all come together. So that's probably one of the highest on my list, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. One for me that I visually like, the movie is just really cool, is 30 Days of Night. And it's based off of Steve Niles' miniseries comic book. And the artwork on the comic was so greatly translated into the film with the way that the vampires looked, and the way it was shot and the lighting. And a big fan of the the translation from book to film. I just think that it was a really great, visually, just really stunning. It was a really cool take on vampire lore, or like a film about vampires. What happens when you're stuck in a town and there's 30
No
days of
light for
night.
30 days.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so it was really cool. The comic is great. I mean, there's like spin-offs and it's like its own little universe now. But I think that a lot of people, because that's not like a mainstream comic book that everyone would have, been buying, that's maybe not within, not a comic book geek or not a fan of like horror comic books, may not have known about it. But
Yeah, I didn't
definitely,
know
if you're a fan work of really cool art, to check out the comic book or the graphic novel, like the collected version of all the comics. It's so cool. It kind of reminds me of the illustrations from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, if you remember that book, that were just very off the wall and so weird that it made it even scarier, because it was like, it wasn't what you expected from horror illustrations. And it's just really cool. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I didn't know that was from a comic book. Yeah, I like the film, but I didn't know it was from a comic book. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but speaking of graphic novels, this next movie for me is like the epitome of what a graphic novel come to life would be. And that's Frank Miller's Sin City.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. I mean, not just because it's black and white, with spattering of color, mainly red for blood, but Robert Rodriguez, the way he directed the film, it's really like you're turning pages as you're watching the movie as it proceeds in its storyline. It's just fantastic. I mean, Bruce Willis, who else is in that movie? Jessica Alba. Is it Mickey Rourke?
Mickey Rourke. Brittany Murphy was in it, no?
Brittany Murphy, yes.
Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood, yes. His character, fantastic. Yeah, that was... Yeah, it's
What's
just...
the Latina that was in it? Like, I'm a big fan of hers. I can't think of... Rosario Dawson.
Yes, Rosario Dawson, yes.
Yeah.
And it was just great. I mean, it's just... the way Robert Rodriguez weaved, like, various storylines into one movie was fantastic. So Sin City was really, for me, the epitome of what a graphic novel come to life would be.
Yeah, and I agree, because it literally is as if you got the comic book and you're a wizard and you shook it and it turned into a film. Like it was so perfect the way that they filmed it, that it's like Frank Miller's world come to life. The creator of Sin City. And the visuals were just so cool. I remember the shot of like Elijah Wood where like just his glasses are illuminated and they're like
exactly.
bright.
Yeah.
Or there's just so many. I mean, there's so many cool images that it's like the plot, maybe not necessarily like the best when it came to like storytelling. Like, I think I was there to appreciate the visuals of it, and the star power that they had in it. I don't really recall the storyline all too much, other than there's a killer. I don't know. So as far as storytelling, maybe not like a 10, but visuals like a 30 out of 10. Like, it was just so good visually that it stands out. Another one that I like, that's like our generation, it came out in 1994, was The Crow. I don't know if a lot of people know that was based on a comic book, but it was. And that, I think, is a classic for anyone that is Gen X. Yeah. I mean, you talk about the visuals of Brandon Lee, the white face, the black lips, the teardrops, and the martial art aspect of it, the soundtrack, which we've talked about on this podcast before, one of the greatest soundtracks before, and just the moodiness of the film, like, fit perfectly with like the alternative movement of like the 90s and the grunge movement, that sort of precursor to like emo, like very dark and brooding, anti-hero, someone who maybe doesn't necessarily want to be the good guy, but is a good person and is fighting bad people, but isn't necessarily like Superman hero, like not all American good guy. He's just like, it happens to him. He goes out for revenge, but is he like really truly like a hero? Maybe not necessarily, but Uh, just a great film visually
Oh yeah,
too.
it is. It has everything that I would want in a comic book anti-hero. So I really gravitated toward that. And, it did spawn a whole spawn. It did spawn a whole Gen X movement of that goth wear, the long hair,
Oh yeah.
the fitted clothes, the black. And it was just even the face paint. I think how many people did not dress up as some variation of the Crow during their youth
Yeah.
is the
That was our
smaller number.
generation's version of like the Joker when everyone was doing the
Mm-hmm.
Joker
Heath
from
Ledger's Joker.
Heath
Yeah.
Ledger's Joker.
Yeah.
And then when they did Jared Leto's, like every generation has like that costume that like every guy wore. And like that was our generation, was like the Crow, Brandon Lee, everyone had that, the hair, the goth, like you said, Hot Topic outfit. So yeah, definitely spoke to us.
Now, the next one for me is it's not as dark. It's from a comic from Dark Horse Comics, and it was brilliantly portrayed on the screen by Jim Carrey, and that is The Mask.
Yeah.
And that is a fun movie. If you haven't seen it, I really highly recommend it. It's a take on Loki mask, and whoever wears the mask is granted the powers of Loki, the prankster, I guess you would call it, right? And it's just so much fun, that movie. Jim Carrey is the perfect actor to portray him there. And I think the scene that I remember most from that movie is when they have him cornered in like the park, and he's wearing the mask, and then he does a rendition of Cuban Pete.
Yeah.
And that's just so hilarious to me, because he's dancing and singing, the famous Desi Arnaz song. And it's just a joy to watch. So The Mask is, something that you might not know was from a comic book, but it is.
Yeah. And I think that that was like the role that created Cameron Diaz as like a star, right?
Yeah,
I think that was like probably like maybe her first role, if not like, I think it was her first role. Like she was a model before, and then she got casted to be in that film. And, her charisma is on display in that movie, and she became a star after that. And so like, I definitely like it for that aspect, because I love Cameron Diaz and the humor, and it was like a good family film too. Like I remember just like kids liking it being like slapstick and funny. So I definitely agree with that one. I'm just kind of going through our list here of other films that are maybe not necessarily famous for being based off of a comic book or from the realm of comic books. I think that those are the main ones for me. What other ones do you have on your list?
Well, the last one I'll say, and because those are, I mean, we both, I guess, share same sensibilities when it comes to this, because both of our top picks, you say, were interchangeable. But we actually interviewed the author of this graphic novel, and that would be Cowboys and Aliens, which was made into a film. Now, when I watched Cowboys and Aliens, the film with Harrison Ford, amongst others, I didn't know it was from a comic book or a graphic novel. It wasn't until we interviewed the guy that I realized, oh, wait a minute, Fred Van Lente, who, if you go back and watch some of our older episodes, you'll see us talk about it and talk with him. So that was really cool when I made that connection. So yeah, that was always, when I saw the previews for that movie come out, I was like, that's interesting. What would happen if an alien invasion came during the Old West time? Because you don't have the same sort of technologies that we do nowadays to fight off an alien invasion. So they had to deal with the technology from the mid 1800s or whatever time period is set in. So that was the last one I think that I really picked out from the list that we saw.
I think that that's a great like honorable mention. Really cool. Trying to think of other ones that are lesser known. I know like History of Violence was a comic book based off a comic book. It's not necessarily like one of my favorite movies. Road to Perdition was based on a comic book graphic novel. V for Vendetta was also a comic book, which it's a great film, but like I don't think it necessarily, because it doesn't have like a guy that flies, you wouldn't think like, it's based off of a comic book. From Hell was also a based off a comic book, and that's a really great movie.
And with Johnny Depp, right?
Was Johnny Depp in From Hell? It was.
Or am I thinking of a different one?
No, I think you might be thinking about a different one. I'm trying to think of who Heather Graham was in From Hell, I believe. Now I need to know who was the main actor.
I'm looking. Yeah, Johnny Depp.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I blocked him from my memory.
How about that?
Yeah.
He played Inspector Frederick Aberline.
Huh. That's interesting because I literally don't remember anything about Johnny Depp from that movie. I remember the visuals and I remember Heather Graham's in it, right? Before I make a
Yeah,
fool
you're
of
right.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember Heather Graham being in it and just the visuals of it. And the comic book is great as well. Really great visuals. But I don't remember Johnny Depp. Oh, well.
Oh, well.
And the other one that's probably like, actually, I would probably say this is like one of my top three is Ghost World. If you haven't seen Ghost World, you have to see it. So that's one of my, you don't really would think that it's based off of a graphic novel, but it is. And it has a young Scarlett Johansson in it who went to become, one of the biggest stars in like the biggest comic book adaptions of like all time. But she's a young girl in it. And Steve Buscemi is in it. It's a very quirky, offbeat, nothing to do with superheroes, just like a slice of life film about like an angsty young girl that doesn't know what she's doing with her life. And it's really cool visuals. It's just such a good movie. I can watch that movie really over and over again. It's really great.
To watch it.
I love. Yeah. Have you not seen it?
I have not seen it.
Okay, so one of the main character, one of her favorite things she likes to do is she plays this like Bollywood song and movie, and so like that's how the movie starts, is her watching it. That is such an earworm, the song that they sing. Like, it like literally like it's so amazing. I don't know how to say it. When you see it, you're like you'll trip out on like the Bollywood, like they're like masked and it's sort of like Dick Dale, sort of like surfer guitar. Meets Bollywood, and nice. It's just really cool. It's a fun movie. It's really interesting, and it's got really cool characters. It's like it reminds me of like that early like 90s 2000s when like independent films were like you were like they really looked forward to seeing those like independent films, like when independent films was like had its like own movement, and like Richard Linklater, Quentin Tarantino, and like it had like a lot of really good stars and actors in it, and it was like people were really embracing those offbeat stories, which is sort of like the flip side of the Avengers and how people criticize, all movies now are based off of, our superhero movies. And this proves that you can still take, ideas from comic books, but maybe it not be about Iron Man. Let it be about because there's so many good comic books that I wish they would adapt into movies. So maybe that'll be our next down the road is comic books that we love that need to be adapted into a film.
Or even novels that they haven't got to yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Or novels and do it, Hollywood.
I know. But at the same token is like, okay, what if they don't do it the way you want it?
Yeah.
It's like, are you still going to love it? Or if they totally screw it up, you're going to be like, oh, what a waste.
Yeah. What's the one that Tim Burton did, like Miss Peregrine's School for Gift, like
Peculiar Children?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That book was so good, and the movie was just not. Like
okay, maybe because I haven't read the book, but I liked the movie. I thought it was interesting.
I think it really hurts having read the book and know the changes that they made. And
that always hurts, yeah.
Yeah. And so the book is definitely better. But a really good adaptation that they did was Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining. They did such a good job with adapting. And even though there were changes to the book and how the movie ended, I was still happy because they did such a good job with the adaptation and the acting in it that I was okay with them changing it. At first, I didn't think I would be, but when then I saw it and I was like, okay, I can accept that.
I got it.
Yeah.
You get a pass this time, Hollywood.
Yeah. So since we're done with, our list of, favorite movies that are based off of comic books, I do have a recommendation for you and for our viewers, because I saw a really cool first episode of a series called Yellow Jackets. I don't know if you've heard about it.
I've heard of that. Wasn't sure what it was about, really, but I heard the name. Okay.
So it's about a group of girls that are like going to state for soccer, and all their lives are all intertwined, and there's like high school drama. they get on a plane and it crashes in like the forest or like wilderness or whatever, and then it sort of turns into like Lord of the Flies,
Oh,
but with
interesting. Okay.
girls. The
Interesting.
interesting thing is that it starts off like it starts with like the plane crash, but then it also shows them some of them as adults, and the actors in it. One of my favorite actresses of all time, Juliette Lewis, is in it,
Okay.
and she's so good, and it's a really good show. I've only seen the first episode of it because I think that when I saw it, the second one wasn't out yet. Um, but I highly recommend it. The actors, Christina Ricci is in it, who's another of my favorite actresses. One of the other leads, I forget her name, but she's also a great actress. I've liked her since she was in God, something about the cheerleader. I can't think of the name. Anyway,
Something about the cheerleader.
yeah, it's a cheerleader movie.
Bring it on.
No. It's about lesbian cheerleaders.
Okay, I'll bring it on.
Or was it?
What was
God, I
it?
can't think of the girl from Orange Is the New Black was in it. RuPaul's in it. Let me see if I can find it. It's a really good movie. It's basically about this cheerleader who's like, popular and beautiful, and she has feelings for girls, and so her parents send her to a conversion camp,
Oh,
and
okay.
there's other gay teens, and they're trying to teach them how to be heterosexual men and women, and it's funny. It sounds horrible, but it's really funny, and I'm trying to find it because I really do recommend it for anyone that hasn't seen it. Uh, and I can't believe that I don't know it because it's such a classic. But I'm a Cheerleader is what it's called.
But I'm a
Uh,
cheerleader. Okay.
yeah, and it's with Natasha Lyonne, and that's
Oh
the
yeah. Okay.
origin.
Natasha Lyonne's great. Yeah.
Yeah, she's one of my favorite actresses. Clea Duvall is in it, who's a great actress. Like I said, RuPaul is in it. Let's see, Kathy Moriarty plays the head of the conversion camp. And Melanie Linsky is the actress that I was referring to that is also in Yellow
Okay.
Jackets. She's actually from New Zealand, and she's amazing in But I'm a Cheerleader. She's also great in Yellow Jackets. It's very suspenseful because it starts off with like a reporter going to her saying like what happened and it being a mystery. Like they know some girls survived, some girls didn't, but what happened? So it gives little clues as to like it being Lord of the Fly-ish because you see
Okay.
them kind of weird stuff happen. And that they're holding a secret. One becomes a famous politician, one's a housewife. Juliette Lewis plays someone who becomes like she's an addict, but it's like, why did she become an addict? Like, what happened to her that like
Mm-hmm.
made her life spin out of control?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good. Like, I don't know what streaming service it's on. I don't know if you
It's on
saw it.
Showtime.
Is it? Yeah. And I think that it's on maybe Hulu. I know that they were saying that it's available on another streaming service.
Oh,
Um,
I think maybe Prime. Amazon
yeah,
Prime
I
has
think
like
it's
the
on
different
Prime. Yeah.
channels. So.
And so, but it's such a good ensemble cast of actresses. It's great to see like a good show that have like strong female actresses, and like Juliette Lewis is like she's had like I think she had like a really high moment in her career, and then like she hasn't disappeared. She's made still really good, had really good work, but I want more of her. Like I think she's just like one of my top 10 actresses of all time. I think she's brilliant as an actress.
Yeah.
Like I love her. And so yeah,
It's
I
very
recommend it.
distinct acting style. You could tell when it's her. Yeah.
It's very raw. It's very real, very
Mm-hmm.
raw. I actually love her performance. Like she has a band and she performs and she's super rock. She's very like Patti Smith. I actually saw her in a play in West End in London. When I saw that
Oh
she had
wow.
a play there, I was like, done. Like I'm gonna. It wasn't the greatest play. Like I drug my dad to go see it, and he was like, "What the hell is this?" It was like very theater. Like it was,
Yeah.
it was like a lot of yelling, but like that's what I wanted to see. I wanted her to like be crazy and like it was that, but the
Okay.
plot of the rest was like kind of like whatever. But I can say that I saw her in a play.
Our life, yeah.
Yeah, and saw her live. Saw that the passion that she has as an actress. I think she's, and that's what I love about her is like the passion, the grit, the realness, like the rawness that she brings to every character that she has. Her voice is, I just love her voice. I think she's beautiful. Like she has like a really quirky beauty about her that I love. And Christina Ricci. I think she's a great actress, and she's also a very unique beauty. I think they're both gorgeous, but they're very unique in their looks and their acting style. True. So definitely recommend it. If you have that, check it out. And, maybe we can talk about it on the show, moving forward. In between, is Ted Lasso done with?
Season 2 is. Now they're working on season 3 and 4.
Okay, so yeah.
But
so we can
get caught up on Acapulco as well.
I'm behind. Yeah, I have to catch back up.
It's really good. I've been watching that. So,
all right. Well, here's something else for the list.
Not that you have any free time or anything.
I know. Yeah, it's like I haven't got into the gym, but I've watched the new episode.
We'll see. It's on your phone. Watch it while you're at the gym.
I know. I need to do that. I need to like while I'm on like a treadmill or something, like have my a show playing. It's so low energy. I am very much motivated by music. And I have to, if I'm doing anything like physical, I have to have upbeat music playing.
Yeah.
I can't be listening to like a book or anything sedate. I don't want to be calm. I want to be like amped up.
I hear you. Well, right on. Well, I think on that note, we'll let Gabe get amped up so he can go to the gym or something like that. So we'll say thank you to everyone for tuning in. We appreciate your continued support, and we look forward to bringing you all of our recommendations, all of our, feedback from what we see and how we spew it through our eyes. So, yeah, thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.